All right, welcome to Build and Run. Build and Run podcast, a real VR podcast for Unity developers. We are here in the New York City VR lab, hashtag VRLNY, and we are going to learn some Unity and Unity Bootcamp. This episode and every other episode is brought to you by VRVU.com, the full-service VR agency. If you need VR done, VRVU.com. And without further ado, we're going to hand it off to John for the lesson.
Hey you guys, welcome. Can you guys hear me out there? All right. I know, I'm sorry, we have to work with what we have right now. So come in as close as you can. We're going to try to do what we can today. We have a lot of people who know Unity. So one of the great things about this lab is that all of you are incredibly skilled at whatever you're doing. Some is 360 video purely, some are game design, some are incredible developers, okay? So we're all here to learn from each other, and that's the great purpose of this lab. We've got incredible people here. So all really, like you share your power cords, help each other with different aspects of this. So this is really, part of the reason it's so inexpensive is that we really want to provide a system where we can all learn from each other. And Dakota has done a great job. We're very lucky to have ITP sponsoring our space. The lab has grown. So as you can see, we're in a rough and tumble situation. We're going to move next week to Lab 50. So there's going to be a little more overflow because of the other hackathon, the stupid hackathon. We're actually in a kind of more confined space, right? So, so bear with us. Now, the first three sessions are going to be kind of a Unity boot camp. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is level the playing field. Now, a lot of you guys know Unity better than I do or anybody else does. Okay, so my background, just a little bit about myself, is I come from film and tactile art. And I went through ITP like 15 years ago. So I also am a teacher at NYU. So I teach everything from film to game design and everything in between. So without further ado, and part of the reason we're doing this is so we can all learn. Okay, so without further ado, you're going to be sent an email with assets later on. What I want to do before I get you into game design, I feel so silly projecting my voice like this. What I'm going to try to do before I get you into Unity, and we're going to do a very simple Unity walkthrough. For those of you who know Unity, we're still going to, I think I'll provide an interesting kind of experience into it. So hopefully it won't be too boring. Lex is recording this with a Theta 360 camera, okay? And what I want to do, just to level the playing field a little bit, is talk about what VR is, because there's a lot of misconception, and there's a lot of VR, the term VR, covers a lot of different things. So the state of VR as such is we have these 360 cameras like the Theta, or there are a couple of other ones too now, that are that record 360 spherical video, usually in something like 1080p. So it's good for YouTube. It's not great necessarily for a cinematic headset experience. So because the resolution is not really that great. So what a lot of people end up doing is they go with a GoPro rig with like 4 or 6 cameras. Now, the UN does a lot of this stuff. And they actually have developed this kind of handheld 4 GoPro camera that they're giving out to people all over the world. Okay, so it's a kind of interesting idea because every one of those 4 or 6 GoPro cameras records 4K, right? So the resolution you get kind of works with a headset. The problem with things like this is that you've got to stitch them together. And that can be a pain in the ass. Who here has done stitching? All right, good. So we'll cover a little bit of this progressively as well. So So 4 cameras will give you a kind of sphere around. 6 cameras give you top and bottom. Now this is not my area of expertise per se. So those guys who have more experience, please chime in. And we've got some really great people who've done a lot of good, amazing 360 videos. So there's also this, and part of the reason I'm doing this too is because I didn't get this stuff until relatively recently myself, okay? So then there's 360 3D video. Well, what's that? Right? Okay, so what you've got is you've got this incredible kind of crazy rig. Oh, and by the way, wait, where's Chris?
Well, just to point out, that rig's actually terrible. You don't want to buy that one. So the way that 3D works is stereoscopic is horizontal. So it's like it works because you're looking left, or right.
Yeah.
But that one points in all different directions. So that actually technically doesn't work. So they actually sell a better rig that's 14 cameras, or you can use a 12 camera rig as well, which will do horizontal, stereoscopic, and then monoscopic on the top and bottom.
Excellent, great. So wait, where is Chris Lavelle? Okay, so Chris was really instrumental for me because he printed out a smaller rig for me as well. So these kinds of rigs, not this kind of crazy rig, but a lot of these rigs you can buy for like hundreds of dollars, or you can 3D print it. So, Chris, did you want to add anything?
Oh yeah, it's like you could buy it for $500, or it's like 50 cents of plastic and like 5 hours of waiting for it to print. So, if we have access to facilities here, they have 3D printers, which should be able to do it. And the model is on Thingiverse. Just type in 360 GoPro or something, and it'll show up. Thingiverse is also a great place to get your 3D models for Unity.
Exactly.
You don't have to skin them yourself though. All right.
Excellent, thank you.
Still need to get the cameras.
So, yeah.
cameras, you can
So
now
you
3D
still
print
need
the
to get
cameras.
You still need to get the cameras. Okay, and thank you. You're right. So these are kind of crazy rigs. So people are trying to figure out how to do, like, all of a sudden, how long is like we've had cardboard for a couple of months, right? And people are already almost sick of 3D 2D video, 360 2D video, right? So people are saying like, okay, well, I want 3D, which means that we can look around things, right? We experience things in 3D. There's a little bit of parallaxing going on. Part of the problem with these things, even when they're all horizontal, is that there's a parallaxing effect that goes on, and it doesn't with rigs like with GoPro rigs. Very often, you are going to get a weird stitching effect where when you look around something, the background, the parallaxing, isn't going to fit together perfectly, and those little things really throw off the experience more than they help us, okay? So what Google has done is they developed the Jump, which is a 12 or 14 rig that's all horizontal, but it's got a different kind of algorithm. So the parallaxing works a lot better, okay? So it gives you this kind of real stereo effect. Who's experienced this? I haven't. How is it? Do you like it?
The Google Jump.
Yeah.
I mean, you can watch the videos on YouTube. They're terrible. The thing is what bothers me the most is the fact that you'll notice there's no camera pointing up and there's no camera pointing down.
Yeah.
So one of the first videos Google released, not surprisingly, was a video of New York. What is the first thing everyone does when they go to New York? They look up because they've never seen buildings this tall. But if you notice, there's no camera on top, so you're looking at a disgusting blur. So, yeah, I mean, you can do, so if going back to 360 Heroes, they sell a 14 camera rig that you can actually treat so that it has at least a monoscopic, what's called a zenith, which is the top of the sphere, and you can do a monoscopic nadir, which is what's called the bottom of the sphere, and it's infinitely better to do that. I mean, granted, because we could talk in a future session about stereoscopics, but you don't need stereoscopic skies because you can't see the depth in a sky anyway.
Yeah. So actually, you guys are going to present, right, Mark, in a couple of weeks too. So we'll be getting into a lot of 360 video. So and a lot of different ways to do it. The interesting thing about these kinds of rigs is how expensive is this? Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy, right? And then you've got the Jaunt, which does do the top and the bottom, but it only works with they only work with their selected partners. Or, right? something weird like that, right? So you've got to apply in. So if you want to get a camera rig that's going to do 360 video well, then you've got to go to something like the Ozo by Nokia, which is evidently fantastic, but it costs $60,000, right? It's kind of crazy. So a lot of people are like, I kind of understand this, but I don't really get it. So what I want to do is, somebody showed me this camera, the Lytro camera, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what the price point is, but I wanted to show you the video of it because, let's go to page, because it will actually kind of show some of the details. Let me see if I can do this.
We're trying to replicate reality here. There's so many things that the current technology does not do.
You know, there's a shift in culture where I think the idea of immersion has gained more traction.
There's still a lot of limitations. What
You can see the parallax effect going on.
Mixed with captured content in a convincing, real way that doesn't cost you $5 million.
Creatively, we're going through the exercise of making a lot of VR, both with video and CG, and we're finding all the pain points. Camera systems is a pain point, post-production is a pain point, distribution and playback is a pain point.
You need the ability to move around in the world, and you need the ability to interact in the world. 6 degrees of freedom in a live-action environment that felt photorealistic would be the next step.
Presence is definitely one of the key points of VR's medium. If you can move in the space, you know, the limit is the stars.
With Lytro Merge, we took the approach of going back to first principles and thinking about what do immersive storytellers want in terms of an end-to-end system to be able to create professional level content for virtual reality.
At a conceptual level, we're building a capture system, and the way to think about it is imagine you have this spherical surface, right? And every ray of light coming from the outside world is captured and recorded. And what we're recording is 2 pieces of information. First, where that ray of light hits the surface, and second, the direction that light's traveling. If you can capture everything intersecting the surface, you've actually captured all the light from the outside world that would have passed through that volume. So you really have every ray of light within the whole volume.
We collect enough ray data that we're able to recreate a model of the scene that's being viewed. And that recreation is not just what color are things in different directions, but actually how far away is each thing along each ray.
As users move in the 6 degree of freedom experience, then we redo that computation at a kind of theoretical or conceptual level, and that's how we deliver an experience that's truly immersive.
Lytro Merge consists of a radical new camera design that, for the first time in history, captures the full light field volume and gives consumers a 6 degree of freedom experience within that. It includes the Lytro Merge server, which gives you all the storage and all the processing that you need in order to capture.
It's only $25 for that server, don't worry about it.
Light field editing tools that integrate with all of the industry-leading editing solutions, including things like Nuke, so that immersive storytellers can work in the environment that they're used to, but bring to bear all the power of the light field. And then finally, we have the Lytro Merge player, which lets you take...
Now, look at this. Okay, so this is interesting, but you watch this person moving their head around and then watch the screen as they're editing in the NLE.
Incredible light field content.
That's kind of nice.
On all of the leading virtual reality headsets and systems that exist today.
Did you get that? That's a very sweet thing.
In the near future.
Lytro Merge is a true light field volume solution, which means we're not just stitching together the images that are captured. Instead, we're essentially rebuilding a version of the scene. As a result, we have very highly reliable depth information, and that makes it possible in subsequent processing to merge computer-generated imagery with the imagery that's captured by the rig. To reassemble this amount of data and be able to view it from different vantage points in different directions requires that we have that depth data. But once we have it, it also has other applications. Being immersed in it, playing a game, having the scene that's happening react to what you're doing is going to make a huge difference. It's really exciting.
All right, so whatever you think of it, it's interesting. Now, a lot of this technology is happening really, really fast. Okay, so the next iPhone is rumored to have a depth camera built in, very much like the Google Tango, right? So it will know where you are in space, and it will be able to actually like record depth camera information. So this stuff is being democratized super, super fast. And the interesting thing about VR right now is obviously it's blowing up, but it also needs a lot of critical analysis too. So it shouldn't be just boys with their toys making this stuff. It should really be like people really thinking critically about how to make content for this. So that's part of the reason why Dakota has put together this lab. So you've got things like the Lytro, but remember that's being recorded by a camera that's static, even if you're moving it. And who knows how expensive that is to rent, even, right? So part of the reason that I started to get really interested in this stuff, I've been watching this, I've been doing spherical video 15 years ago, okay? This stuff wasn't there yet. VR, I resisted for a long, long time as being like the next thing. I just was like, whatever. But when I got a chance to try the Vive and have that experience with moving around and really tactily interacting with stuff, I became a little bit of a convert. I got to see what was really the potential for this stuff. So I just want to show you guys, for those of you who don't know about it or who haven't experienced it, because I didn't up until like 6 months ago, okay? I knew vaguely about it, but I didn't understand tactily what actually moving around space was. With things like the Lytro camera, that looks great, but you can only move like this, like that, because it's really based on a sphere camera, right? It's not moving. When you get to physically move around in a space and interact with stuff, it gives us as human beings the ability to tactily understand information, and that's amazing. So I just want to show you a couple of stupid little videos from YouTube about the Vive. Okay, one is just this guy playing the Vive.
He has a poopy eyes though. Oh my god! Are you kidding me, guys? He doesn't like him to be just. Maybe he's a guy. Yes. I'm too scared. I'm too scared to open it. Okay. Okay. I knew it! Wow. It looks like Hellboy with the werewolf.
So what's interesting here is that I'm sorry, I can't silence it.
Stop, don't stare at me like that anymore.
It's here. So the interesting thing here is that
if you have a palace at home, if you're very rich man or just in the open one, can you make the...
There we go. The interesting thing here is that you're able to walk around the space, and forgive me if you guys understand this already, okay? But if you've experienced it, walking around the space and actually feeling things is an amazing thing. It's one thing to look at somebody kind of playing around like this, but when you actually are able to manipulate things and move things with these haptic sensors and move them around, it's an amazing way to experience stuff. So this landscape is changing very, very fast. There are more things that that we've sent out, more examples of this, which is why it's really interesting to think about a 3D creation tool as an environment to start creating 3D video or creating a VR experience. It does not have to be purely CG. So one of the things that's been incredible in the last couple of years with 3D are things like photogrammetry or videogrammetry, where you're able to capture data of somebody physically in the universe moving or photographically in 360 degrees and experience them, in a 3D space. So this stuff is almost as if a lot of films in the future are going to be made with 3D assets in a 3D creation environment. Okay? There are a variety of different ways to go and ways to think about this. There's no right way. So what we want to do in this lab is expose each other to all that's out there. Okay, so we've got experts in 360-degree cinema, we've got experts in motion capture, we've got experts in game design, we've got experts in photogrammetry. It's really interesting stuff right now. So now, in terms of Unity, how many people have worked with Unity before? Okay, a fair amount. Okay. How many people have worked with Unreal? Okay. Unreal is a great engine, actually. And how many people have worked with Stingray at all? Okay. Stingray is Autodesk's, I know. Stingray is Autodesk's foray into the 3D engine, 3D gaming engine, okay? All three versions of whatever you're working with is fine. It doesn't matter, okay? Both Unity and Unreal are great. Unity's been in the space with indie developers for a little bit longer, and as a result, has a larger community. So I'm going to show you a lot of the benefits of that a little bit later on in class, but there are a tremendous amount of assets, resources, scripts, tutorials that Unity provides, or that the Unity community provides. So as Lex was talking at the beginning of the session about community, one of the things that's great is the Unity community. Whether you're working with Unity, Unreal, in a lot of ways, Unreal blows Unity out of the water, in a lot of ways. But it's a really high-end thing. It can be hard to run on a laptop unless you've got an Alienware. Stingray, right now, we guys get to benefit from the war between these kinds of platforms because Unity was, a year ago, was free for a basic package, but then you have the pro version, which you paid a lot of money for, but you got a lot of more assets. When Unreal, which cost a tremendous amount of money because it does AAA games, right? When Unreal started to realize how much of their community was being lost to Unity, they made Unreal free. So Unreal is free until you make, what, like over $100,000 on your product, at which point you have to actually pay Unreal a percentage. But up until that point, it's totally free. So when they did that, Unity was like, wait a second, we're free too! Okay, so it's kind of, it's a little bit of a war. Now, Stingray comes in from Autodesk, and they actually charge you a monthly subscription. I don't know how long that's going to actually work for. It's interesting thinking about Autodesk having a lot of 3D Max and Maya tying directly into their game engine, because that's a great kind of workflow. So, what? 2 minutes. Okay. So, one of the things that I do want to add is that whatever tool you pick, it doesn't matter. Tools change. Okay? And in fact, we're going to have a couple of people come in and present about 360 web VR in a little while, or in a few weeks, because a lot of these tools you'll probably be doing this over the web in another 5 years. But right now, the tools really for web VR completely aren't there yet. Although you can spit out HTML5 via Unity and Unreal. So the other thing is, as Lex was saying earlier about downloading the latest Unity, very often one of the things that happens is that the latest, when you work in Unity, when you work with any one of these game engines, you're going to be working with other things like Oculus, other SDKs like Oculus, like Google Cardboard, like Vuforia, which is an augmented reality, a lot of different plugins, okay? They all get updated at different times. And as a result, your games are going to break. Your projects are going to break. iOS got updated 2 weeks ago. Unity got updated 2 days ago. They break each other, okay? it happens, all right? So back up and be patient, all right? That's at